The question is, why? Why is Tucker doing this? Here's why. It's because the old civilizational battle was communism versus capitalism. That's what drove the world since World War II. Russia was the enemy then. But now they think the battle is woke versus unwoke. And in that fight, Putin is an ally to the right. He's their friend. Unfortunately, he is also a brutal and ruthless dictator.
It used to be you would go home at the end of the day, most people would go, oh, Cheers is on, oh, MASH is on, oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on, All in the Family's on. You just expected, there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people.
Mm-hmm. In today's easy cancel culture world, and cancel culture, woke culture, this culture, that culture, division, etc., that really bugs me. And in the spirit of that, you either succumb and be what you think other people want you to be, or you go, well, no, that's not who I am. I'm going to be myself, and I'm going to be real.
Things that were unimportant back then, but that I was doing because it just felt like the right thing to do. Putting gay characters in, putting trans characters in, putting black characters in, establishing early on that, yes, our hero is of all races. He is not human. He is all of these things. Here is an entire episode in which he is black 10,000 years ago. And people who look at the Endless see the Endless that they see. There is no true form for these characters. That kind of stuff, which just seemed sensible when I was writing it, now it's Flashpoint stuff. Now people are arguing about it. Now we get these trolls online screaming at us that we're woke and stuff. And I'm like, well, if we're woke, then we were woke in 1988 and it didn't hurt us then. And we've sold millions of copies, so we're doing all right.
When we use language, we have an obligation and a responsibility to be so specific that people cannot mince our words, that people cannot misunderstand what we're getting at. But when we use a word like woke, it gives all the latitude to the hearer to fill in the blanks about what I'm actually saying. What is a woke? Is it a noun? When Ron DeSantis was recently reelected, the first thing he said was Florida is where woke goes to die. Is woke a noun? Is woke a living, breathing thing? How can it go there to die? Whatever could you mean, Ron DeSantis? What could you actually be saying in your veiled contempt? Well, leave it to the hearer to fill in the blank. The word woke has come to be a substitute for whatever we hate the most, whatever we despise the most, whatever we vilify, whatever we want to rally around, whatever our monster is, that is the woke. How can woke go to die? Well, we don't want to say it because it's gross to say, I would like gay people to go die in Florida. We will wipe them out. Or transgendered people will get wiped out in Florida. Blacks, we're going to wipe them out in Florida. See, we can't say that, so we substitute it with an abusive word like woke that allows you to do the heavy lifting. What a cowardly thing to do, DeSantis and anybody else who tosses that word around flippantly, waiting for somebody else to fill in the blank with their own hatred.
I don't think the shift was in the film industry as much as, I mean, yes, there's been a shift in the film industry, but I think that what you just described as far as like what Drinker described is really a shift also in YouTube film commentary, which started focusing on this word woke as, you know, something to put into the algorithm, and it goes in the algorithm, it goes into titles, and people click on it because it means whatever whoever's reading it or hearing it wants it to mean. And it's,
well, then we should define the term right now. That way there's no more confusion going on.
Absolutely, we should.
Yeah. What does woke mean to you?
I don't think it means anything. What does it mean to you guys?
Well, see, I kind of live I have 7 sisters, so growing up, I grew up in a very feminist household.
I'm sorry.
Okay. What does that
No,
have to say?
not big.
The woke versus the anti-woke. That seems to be the new battleground of this culture war. Apparently, I'm on the side of the woke. It's not a label I've given myself, but a label I've been given in my comments section and on Twitter, Facebook, and pretty much all of social media. I'm also called feminist, soy boy, consumer, shill, grifter, and a lot of other things that get much, much worse as I go, but I'll stick with woke. I found the woke label strange since I've never considered myself particularly woke per se. I believe everyone should have equal rights no matter what you identify as. I honestly can't even begin to understand why a bunch of cis people seem unbelievably offended by the existence of trans people. People should just live their lives and pursue whatever makes them happy as long as it doesn't cause harm to themselves or others. That seems fairly reasonable to me. But do you want to hear some of my takes that could get my woke card pulled? I do not think dead naming or misgendering people is a big deal. Now I say that with a caveat. That caveat being that you don't do it with malice. Accidentally dead naming or misgendering someone I don't think is a big deal. Just as long as you don't do it to be a dick, essentially.
Although technically I have been suspended. But the suspension will not be lifted unless I delete the hateful tweet in question, and I would rather die than do that. What was it that I said that caused such a fuss? And that fuss is just beginning. Here's the tweet in question. Remember when pride was a sin? And Ellen Page just had her breasts removed by a criminal physician.
He's an asshole.
Another thing that people call me out for is having pronouns in my bio. Apparently, if you do that, it means your opinions can be immediately thrown out. However, no one notes what my pronouns are listed as. He, him, Batman. Do you actually think I use Batman pronouns? Batman looks at Batman's self in the mirror. I list it this way because I think the pronoun discussion gets really silly, quite frankly. There are a lot of people making silly pronouns for themselves, and I honestly think that's fine. But it does get hard to take too seriously. Of course, maybe we shouldn't take it seriously at all. Pronouns are just part of the English language. Maybe we should all just pick gender-neutral pronouns for all of us to use. After all, gender-specific words are largely unnecessary. Did you know that in Spanish there are 4 different words that mean the? El is the masculine singular. La is the feminine singular. Los is the masculine plural. Las is the feminine plural. In English, we simplify it to the simply by not gendering it. Maybe just do that with all pronouns and call it a day. But this is me just spitballing. I am just a cishet white man butting his nose in stuff that doesn't remotely concern him. So to go back to the original point, am I woke? What is woke?
Very liberal, and probably fewer of them consider themselves to be woke. And so, you know, when we talk about traditional,
what does that mean to you? Would you mind defining woke? Because it's come up a couple times, and I just want to make sure we're on the same page.
So, I mean, woke is sort of the idea that this is going to be one of those moments that goes viral. I mean, woke is something that's very hard to define.
When I started doing reaction content, it seemed to be used to critique media exclusively, for the most part. Captain Marvel is woke for being a strong woman. Rey is woke for being a strong woman. Eternals is woke because there's a 2-second gay kiss and because some of the characters are gender race swapped. Shang-Chi is woke because it stars a non-white man. Rings of Power is woke because Galadriel is a strong woman and there are non-white elves, hobbits, and dwarves. Little Mermaid is woke because Ariel is black. I mean, the fact that they throw this word around to slight women and minorities is pretty telling.
The wokeness in Eternals is pretty heavy, and one of the most obvious ways that you're going to see that is the cast. The Eternals, these created guardians of mankind, come in all genders, colors, sexuality, and ability, which, if we had some explanation for that, might be fine.
It largely just seems to be used to attack movies and media for having diversity in characters. But then, it started seeping into the general political sphere.
Let me ask you, do you think that General Patton was woke? I don't think so. What do you think, Mike? Mike, was he woke? I don't think so. I don't think he was too woke. He was the exact opposite. You know what woke means? It means you're a loser. Everything woke. Everything woke. It's true. Everything woke turns to shit, okay?
DeSantis made it part of his election strategy.
And we reject woke ideology. We fight the woke in the legislature. We fight the woke in the schools. We fight the woke in the corporations. We will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Florida is where woke goes to die.
The word has its roots in the black community, simply meaning to be aware of injustices faced by black people in the United States. But then it changed, seemingly becoming something to attack media.
There seems to be a bit of a debate going on about whether or not this movie is woke, mainly because of the demographics of certain characters. And to be fair, there is a bit of evidence to support this claim. If I was a cynical man, I'd say it's kind of interesting that the rich, corrupt scumbags targeted by the Riddler all happen to be straight, white, middle-aged men, but hey, I guess that's just a total coincidence.
X movie is woke. Comic books are woke. TV shows are woke. Now people run for political campaigns on it, though unsuccessfully. Politics is downstream of culture. This was said by Andrew Breitbart, someone who I frankly have no respect for, but judging how the word woke seems to have seeped into our culture, it seems like he may be correct. It seems silly to dive into this thing without clear bearing on what these terms even mean. So if you want a definition, the dictionary, I guess, is the go-to place. Webster's dictionary defines woke as aware and actively attentive to important societal facts and issues, especially issues of racial and social justice. I've decided to use a dictionary definition in my essay. Totally awesome and original, I know. No one has ever written as awesome as me before. I know all the words. But the good news is, we have a somewhat cohesive grasp of what woke means, simply being aware of societal facts and issues. And honestly, does that even seem bad? Why is killing woke so vital for so many people? Shouldn't we all want to address and fix societal issues? So let's rewind this a bit. I stumbled into the anti-woke culture on YouTube quite unintentionally. See, I knew there were channels on YouTube that had a total freakout over Brie Larson, The Last Jedi, and Ghostbusters 2016. A lot of my contemporaries, back when my channel was booming and getting 100,000 views a video, seemed to get offended by a speech and a few interviews that Brie Larson did in the lead up to Captain Marvel. So much so, I thought I should do a video on it. So I researched it and immediately thought everyone who was making videos on this were massively overreacting.
So earlier this week, USC Annenberg's Inclusive Initiative released findings that 67% of the top critics reviewing the 100 highest grossing movies in 2017 were white males. Less than a quarter were white women, and less than 10% were unrepresented men. Only 2.5% of those top critics were women of color. So you're probably thinking right now, like, wow, that super doesn't represent the country that I live in, and that's because that's true. This is a huge disconnect from the US population breakdown of 30% white men, 30% white women, 20% men of color, and 20% women of color. On top of all of this, am I saying that I hate white dudes? No, I'm not. But what I am saying is that if you make a movie that is a love letter to women of color, there is an insanely low chance a woman of color will have the chance to see your movie and review your movie. And this is also not to mention other people besides white dudes like Star Wars and would love the opportunity to do a set visit. And I'm also saying I don't hate white dudes. I'm just saying we need to be conscious of our bias and do our part to make sure that everyone is in the room. It really sucks that reviews matter, but reviews matter. Good reviews out of festivals give small independent films a fighting chance to be bought and seen. Good reviews help films gross money. Good reviews slingshot films into awards contenders. A good review can change your life. It changed mine. Because I know that this means that my work will be shown, digested, discussed by a variety of people, not just a singular perspective. I want to know what my work means to the world, not a narrow view.
Most unlikable person on the planet. So now we go to this interview with Chris Hemsworth, where they're talking about stunts, and she dares to compare herself to the great Tom Cruise and snaps at Chris Hemsworth.
I do all my stunts. I did my stunts because I thought that that's what everyone did. And then
Tom Cruise over here?
No, I want to be the first me, not the next Tom Cruise. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Not the next Tom Cruise. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you very much.
Because a lot of comic book fans are starting to hate her, and the reason why was because she attacked movie critics, but not just any movie critics. She specifically attacked white movie critics, saying that the overwhelming majority of the movie critics are old white men.
Actress Brie Larson seems slightly annoyed with Avengers Endgame co-star Chris Hemsworth when he commented on how she did her own stunts for the movie and wants to be like Tom Cruise. Now, Chris Hemsworth was probably nudging her, probably kidding, and I think Brie Larson leaned into this a little bit, and Brie Larson is a little bit of an SJW troll. Everything that she says is sincere, but she also just has it in her that she's riling up the white guys, the angry white guys, that she seems to have a serious problem with. Brie Larson complained publicly that there were too many white males in her press pool, and she wanted to see more people of various colors out there as she looked out at them and singularly looked at them looking at her. She wanted to see more people of color and more, disabled people, more LGBTQ people out there. And even if those people didn't particularly want the job of following her around on her press junket for Captain Marvel, the clip shared Friday by Entertainment Tonight shows the 29-year-old. By the way, this is like a 45-year-old woman. It's shocking to me that she's only 29. She's got a lot of road miles. There's a lot of kind of just, ex-wife about this woman. A lot of I owe you child support about this woman. 29 years old.
And I'm going to say stumbled a lot because it sums up how I got here quite well. Anyways, I covered a Jim Shooter panel during the Cincinnati Comic Expo in 2021. It was covered by a smaller YouTuber that identified as Comicsgate. I didn't know what the hell Comicsgate was, but now I was getting traffic associating my channel with it. So I did research and fairly quickly found out it was something that I find disgusting. So I made a video condemning it and asking anyone who was Comicsgate to please unsubscribe to my channel. Part of that video was me reacting to other videos. So for fun, I decided to do more just reaction videos since I figured out a way to do them fairly easily. Then I started doing it regularly and found myself pointing out all the insanities said in these so-called anti-woke videos. Almost all the claims in these videos can be easily debunked without any effort. But what disturbed me was the backlash. The people who followed things taught by these anti-woke videos, regurgitating these terrible ideas in my comment section.
The problems began early on with the casting of Rachel Zegler as Snow White. Now, why was this a problem, you might ask? Well, the original German folktale describes the character as follows. Snow White had lips red as a rose, hair black as ebony, and skin white as snow. Skin white as snow. Skin white as snow.
See, I kind of knew of this culture war before. I had a very particular view of it. I found that yes, the woke SJWs could get annoying and would frequently overreact to simple mistakes, but it always seemed like they did this with at least the right idea in mind. Yes, they could get a bit much, but they meant well. The counter side I never really understood because it all seemed like misogynistic garbage. Everyone just crapped on women in leading roles and women filmmakers with no clearly defined reason besides that they are women. And yes, when your catchphrase is MCU or DC or any other variant, you're being a misogynist.
MCU, but MCU. What's in an MCU? Disney MCU, MCU, probably MCU and MCU fatigue. No.
Your goal is to bring down franchises simply for having women involved. That is misogyny. If you use those taglines but aren't comfortable with being labeled misogynist, then you need to do some self-reflecting. But let's look at some more stuff these channels do. Here are some thumbnails from one of the most popular anti-woke media figures, aka Nerdrotic, and ask yourself, if maybe they're a bit racist. This one is classic. Your Let's Taco About Blue Beetle. This one got a lot of attention for being racist, because it is. It's the Blue Beetle actor next to Consuela from Family Guy for no reason except they're both Hispanic, and a taco. It's a thumbnail that is at least honest. The thumbnail is filled with racist stuff, just as the video is. And you can find my coverage of that video on my channel. Here's a real class act. This is a picture of the deaf actress who plays the title role in the TV series Echo. Nerdrotic is clearly not above ableism with this picture. And the last example is pretty recent. A Doctor Who video where the newest Doctor, who also happens to be the first Black Doctor, is dressed up in a clown costume. Really quite classy, Gary. Why does he do this? The reasons are twofold. One, to get people who are fairly bigoted themselves to click, but also, two, to get people who clearly recognize this as bigoted, pissed, and to click on it as well.
Calling him a racist is okay, especially when it's based on this tweet. Steve Rogers is Captain America and Miles Morales is Miles Morales. This is a factual statement. Steve Rogers is indeed Captain America and Miles Morales is Miles Morales. I put this on Twitter because it brings a lot of morons to the yard who like to project their hate and vitriol on factual statements, and it really just exposes how stupid Twitter can be. This statement does not say that Sam Wilson isn't a Captain America. It doesn't say John Walker isn't a Captain America, or Isaiah Bradley, who was retconned as the first Captain America, isn't a Captain America. It doesn't say that Bucky Barnes isn't a Captain America. It just says Steve Rogers is Captain America, and the same goes with Miles Morales. He is indeed, again, Miles Morales. He's also a Spider-Man.
It is pure outrage content done for clicks because clicks equals money for YouTubers. This doesn't mean there's anything wrong with trying to get clicks on your video and getting paid for it, but there is something wrong with encouraging bigotry and frankly normalizing it, which is exactly what Nerdrotic is doing here.
This month, I've made $1,000 on Twitter. $1,000. But I'm making $1,000 off of Miles Morales tweets.
And he is not remotely the only channel that does this. Many channels have people making a living essentially encouraging bigotry in the fan community.
Stellan Skarsgård is just a really awesome actor, and so he's not a leading man either, by the way. I wouldn't go see a movie based on Stellan Skarsgård being the lead, but he's a great supporting character and a supporting actor, which is what Diego Luna should be. But of course, Diego Luna has the diversity aspect, and they're pushing identity politics with this. They 100% are, and this is the only reason Diego Luna is the lead character of this series, because they're trying to push their diversity bullshit. That's 100% what they're trying to do. It's so dumb, it derails from the story.
And that is one of the most offensive things in this culture war when it comes to media critique. Number one, media critique is a skill, and the ability to give your opinion on a movie without revealing too much and creating a rapport with your audience is a great thing that gets destroyed when you have people making outrage bait a couple of times a day about how movie or actress is woke, or how Brie Larson said something reasonable, or how Kathleen Kennedy is killing Star Wars, or MCU, and the list goes on and on.
I mean, I definitely had fun playing a particularly challenging game of Spot the White Guy with this trailer, because damn man, this one shows enough to fulfill Disney's entire DEI quota for the next 2 fiscal years. For example, check out this collection of Jedi Padawans and see if you can identify the one demographic that's mysteriously left out.
Number 2 is how nerd culture is something that should be inclusive and diverse. Series like Star Trek and X-Men even have the idea baked into their DNA from the beginning. Inclusion and diversity has always been a part of those franchises since day one.
Well, here's one thing you can be sure of, mister. Leave any bigotry in your quarters. There's no room for it on the bridge.
And frankly, a lot of the ideas they scream about are involved in all nerd franchises. The strong female character was in the very first Star Wars.
Into the garbage, you flyboy!
Strong women companions are frequent for the Doctor in Doctor Who. Hell, Sarah Connor, who anti-woke guys claim to love, would be declared woke just for this line in Terminator 2 if it was released today.
Fucking men like you built the hydrogen bomb.
Men like you thought it up. I think you're so creative. You don't know what it's like to really create something, to create a life. Feel it growing inside you. All you know how to create is death and destruction.
Mom! So the fact is, these guys are lying about your favorite franchises and about media in general. You may argue that these characters are poorly written now, except these guys begin their campaigns before the media even comes out, meaning they can't watch it to at least know if they're poorly written. It is a pure money-making grift.
Friends, although you literally say, I go to what's trending before I make a video. Something I don't do.
I just created a One Piece discussion right now. I just created one for the past 5 minutes.
Yes.
No, but I would have liked.
Did we just talk about One Piece for 5 minutes? Yes or no?
We didn't.
Yes,
One
we
Piece
did.
was used, but we didn't talk about it.
No.
Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it. Don't act like that's not what we do.
I don't build a narrative. I
You
give
are
my
an absolute
opinion.
fucking.
You are hard.
What we do. You've made the same fucking video on the same topic at least 7 times a week, Ryan. And you're gonna act like we don't do that.
I talk about
Brie
I talk
Larson
about
says one fucking thing and we make a whole video out of it. That's what we do.
And if you are a fan of anti-woke stuff, I want you to open your mind, because I believe there is hope for you. If you truly believe the crap that people like Nerdrotic and his ilk say, then you need to expand your horizons, expose yourself to more media and experiences outside of your bubble. Know that the vast majority of these anti-woke commentators don't even believe in what they're saying, but are pushing a culture war on you with the sole goal of getting you to give them money, or at the very least, click on their video.
Okay, because, I really dislike the fake geek thing and the poser nerd thing. That's not what we're about. We're about inclusiveness, and we want new people in.
Here is the secret the anti-woke channels love to obscure. All you have to do is voice support for equal rights, and you'll get labeled woke, and then you can be dismissed easily. Point out how a lot of arguments are flawed. Point out how it might be slightly racist to watch a trailer and scream diversity every time you see a non-white man.
You should not be alone.
Holy fuck of the diversity.
Why did you join the Brotherhood?
Oh my God, the diversity.
Out of this wasteland.
Diversity. I'm not interested. Not interested.
The anti-woke arguments are quite bad and very obviously have their root in bigotry and misinformation. And frankly, I would argue bigotry is nothing more than a branch of misinformation. The people who scream about wokeness harms society are selling you something. Plain and simple. Now, if you're a fan of this content, I'm not expecting this video to break you away from the anti-woke content all on its own. But if it did, awesome. However, this video will be the first part of a long series going over the many points in this culture war propagated by social media. Each episode will break down not only these arguments, but the landscape, or maybe hellscape would be more accurate, that brought us here. Would you be interested in learning the real connection between toxic fandom and Disney? Why the MCU is a blatantly sexist argument? How a forgettable movie like Ghostbusters 2016 became a massive culture war talking point? And how Mary Sue is a pretty sexist term? Or maybe how DEI and ESG aren't the villains they're made out to be? Now, if you already dislike these anti-woke grifters and want to know how to fight them, there is something easy you can do right now. I know it sounds self-serving, but liking this video, commenting, and subscribing to this channel do help take algorithm space away from these grifters. Also, make sure to like, comment, and sub to other channels just attempting to give honest takes on YouTube. They are becoming a rarity and should be recognized. A couple of great channels I'd recommend include Organized Chaos Podcast, Actual Fandom, TurfNation, AirricksReloaded, AirrickDebunks, Pop Counterculture, Forced Adversity Podcast, Mr. TARDIS, Pillar of Garbage, Bob of the Old Ways, Nothing But Media, Blurred Without Fear, Blurry Films, Chariot, Edgier Than Thou, My 2 Cents of Nonsense, Bobby Quarters, and many, many more. Stay tuned. All the greatest hits of toxic fandom will be destroyed one by one as I roll out this series and tell you why toxic fandoms suck.
books, records, films, these things matter. Call me shallow. It's the fucking truth.